We just launched it on Twitter, and that one Twitter post gained like 10,000 users. We like just launched a Instagram post talking about YouLearn, and that gained a lot of traction, tens of millions of views, and that allowed a lot of users to find out about us.
Today on the Lobster Talks, I'm talking with David, the founder of YouLearn, one of the most interesting AI learning startup out of YC. If you have been a student struggling with dense PDFs or learning for your exam, well, YouLearn turns your course material into notes, a live tutor, quiz engine, everything you need to learn more effectively. And they're growing really, really fast with tens of thousands of users. I'm so excited for this conversation. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be on here. Thank you, Gabriel.
I'm excited. You have so much stuff to teach me and the audience because you're just building an amazing company. So let's just start simple. Can you please introduce yourself and introduce YouLearn?
Yeah, I'm David Yu. I'm the co-founder of YouLearn. Me and Achu and Somi are building out this AI tutor for students. We've been building this since about a year and a half ago. We started it just out of our dorms, and we wanted to fix our own problems of watching these long lecture videos. And we brought it out to the world, and the world liked it. So we kept on building and iterating upon it. And yeah, we're now here on this podcast talking about it. But yeah, you learn essentially all you have to do is like upload any of your learning materials, like PDFs, YouTube videos, or recording your own class. And then you understand it through this AI tutor that you talk to, personalized test. And yeah.
That's awesome. I wish when I was a student, that's so many years ago, I could have this. You said you can upload your PDF or videos, but you can just record your classroom. You come in with your computer or your phone, hit record for an hour, and then it's going to actually create some materials for you to learn easier.
Exactly.
Isn't that
Exactly.
crazy? Isn't that awesome? So
Yeah.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like me and I would be in class and I just start recording it on my computer and just listening to it. And then afterwards, I mean, I don't even have to listen to the class. Instead, I just use that material to like ask any questions I have. And that's how I went through school, like the whole entire time using YouLearn.
Wow. That's just great. And you, again, I was, one of the questions I knew the answer is like, how did you come up with the idea? You just wanted to solve your own problem. So many, it's interesting because so many students have similar issues. But what do you think was the differentiator for you and your co-founders to actually be the one out of millions of students every year? You're literally the only ones who started something like this. What was the push, the differentiator? What made you start this really?
Yeah. I mean, first, it's like we faced the issue ourselves. We authentically created out of thin air because we wanted to fix our own problem. Um, we started building out projects during freshman year of college. We met each other, all of us, like 2 weeks into college, and every weekend we just come together in our dorm rooms and just build out whatever projects we had in mind. And we called this dormathons essentially.
Wow.
Um, and we did that every weekend until like around last year and a half. And we were like, I don't want to watch these long 10 years old videos that are outdated. It was like a CSE class that we had. So we built out a first version that was essentially just like a YouTube summarizer, just so that I don't need to watch all those videos. Instead, I can summarize it, right? And that turned out to be a pretty killer like site at the very start because we just launched it on Twitter, and that one Twitter post gained like 10,000 users. So we're like, okay,
Wow.
there's something here.
Wait, day one?
Yeah, essentially, just we just made one Twitter post, and then
It's
other
insane.
people started sharing it to others, and like it was kind of like it grew by itself. Because at that time, any like study AI study tools was amazing for users. Uh, so yeah.
It's crazy. Talk about product market fit. I mean, were you guys somehow influential on Twitter already, or was it just random? And was it in your school, like your classmates, or was it broader from the beginning?
Yeah, it was broader. In fact, we were confused why there was people from Syria and Egypt using our product the most at that time. We never fully understood why, but we understood that they like the AI hype cycle going on, and they want to try and choose whichever tools that were out there.
It's insane. Before we move on, I have a short reminder. If you're liking this show, I publish every week. I bring you, insights from a new YC founder every week. Please hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube and the notification bell if you're on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a 5-star review, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Thank you so much. So my question to you was going to be, how did you get your first 100 customers? But the answer was, this is how we got our first 10,000 customers day one or day two. That must have been a panic, a good one, obviously, but probably so many bugs and so many fires to put out. Walk me through that next morning where you wake up and you have 10,000 users.
Yeah, I mean, we just look at our Vercel dashboard and it says 10,000 users. We didn't have anything like properly set up at that time. It was great to see, but there was at that time we didn't charge anything, so we didn't know if it was fully validated. And it was like we saw users come onto our site, but we didn't know exactly what they're doing. We didn't have any of the data, right? So we set up all the post hoc metrics. We made sure that we can get everything accurately, and then that's when we started analyzing everything. But that first like push towards 10,000 users was definitely like a good way to get momentum as a team, and to just like, okay, this is something that can work, and we can just keep on iterating upon it.
There's so many questions because it's so rare. A company that has 10,000 customers on day one. Are you not so like disgusted or really mad that you're not monetizing, mad at yourself, like, oh, if I just put a small paywall, I would be already making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's all free. I didn't sort of take profit of that opportunity. Were you, angry at yourself like that or not at all?
Not at all. We were actually really glad that people find it useful. And that's what we wanted to build, something that's useful for students. I think at that time, we didn't even think about monetization. We were a bit naive. And um, our goal was just to get a couple of users. That was our main goal. So, now that we met that, we're like, okay, this is our next goal. This is what we have to do next, and move from there. So we weren't mad. We were just like, okay, this is like another step towards a bigger action.
That's very cool. And then another question I had was, I have many more on this because it's just so cool and so rare. It isn't it, there's you get so much, I guess, dopamine, such a rush from this 10,000 users overnight, literally. And then I'm guessing it slows down. It has to slow down. You cannot get 10,000 every day, otherwise you'd already be at, a billion users. Um, and I'm sure you're working towards that, but it has to have a big jump, and then it has to be flat for several days or weeks or months. How do you keep your motivation up when that happens?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, it was like a spike for about a couple, 2 to 3 days, and then and then it just dropped back down, right? Um, and it wasn't like we were full on distribution. We were trying to like amp that up. I think for us, like as a team, we always just kept on wanting to build. Like if one of us were tired of building something, the other teammate is just like wanting to keep on building it, and they have a great idea, and that like kept us moving. But when everybody's down, when things aren't working, and momentum slows down, and you have like a couple of users on your sites per day, then that's when it starts to get hard, right? I think in those moments, it's really just conviction in what you're building. Do you believe that an AI tutor can help millions of students at some, like billions of students at some point? And we had that conviction, but it was hard to see at that time because it was basically just like a side project. So we took it more seriously over time as well. Um, you know, but we were also trying to say, okay, here are some small milestones we should reach over time, and we should think about it from like micro steps instead of macro steps. And that having those kind of like jumps allows you to like be focused in the moment and like understand that, okay, if you're not like jumping this much in the next 2 years, right, then it doesn't like make you sad or anything, right? It's just you're just moving, you're just having some kind of momentum.
It's very interesting. Small steps instead of big ambitious goals that maybe are unreachable. That applies for everyone. You know, I keep repeating myself the same thing and repeating to all of my entrepreneurs is every time you get a no for a new client, a new contract, or someone that just doesn't come in and sign up, you stay at the same place. You're not going backwards. Your company is still there. But every time you get a yes, you actually move forward, whether it's in revenue or in a new contract. And so if you only get one yes and nine no's, so 1 out of 10, you're still making progress. And of course, on a daily basis, it doesn't feel that way because you just hear no, 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 no. But that actually works. It's almost impossible for any company to just always hear yeses. It doesn't work that way. So I what you're saying there really resonates with me, and I want to point out something else for the audience that you said at the beginning, but it's really important. I've built startups on my own and with co-founders, and there's many solo founders who don't want co-founders for many reasons. But one of the greatest advantage of being several co-founders is there's always someone that's motivated, and the loss of motivation doesn't happen at the same time. It will happen for every founder, but if you have three founders and one is not motivated anymore, the other two will pick up the slack and be like, let's go. And like you said, they have a new idea, a new way of taking things. So that's you talked about that very briefly, but I wanted to double down because it's so essential in my opinion. And to people
Mhm.
listening out there, oh, I don't need a co-founder because I have all the skills. It's not really about skills. It's mostly about that specific point, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
exactly. And I have a lot of respect for solo founders and like hardware founders. That is really hard, and that's like eating a lot of glass, a lot more glass than the average founder.
Even more
So
no's than
100
us.
no's,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. What was the transition to full time? Because you said it was a side project, and I want to add a question inside the question, which is in the second or third day when you have those tens of thousands of users, are you thinking I'm going full time like right now, and then 3 days later it goes back down? You're like, oh my god, I'm not. So did you have that thought of going full time already at the very beginning, or not? And then how did you actually end up going full time?
No, actually, after that, like we kept on doing some other things. We kept on building, but we kind of stopped working on it. So, like, if I put it in like timelines perspective, it was last year summer, towards the summertime, that we stopped working on it, and like we were just doing our own internships, going to getting a job and everything. But we were kind of like just building a little bit here and there on the side, right? When we had time, we come together in the weekend on the Discord call and be like, hey, we could just add this really quickly, and it would be really helpful for all these users. But it was left as a side project. But then we got super serious about it by fall semester. So this was around 9 to 10 months ago now. But during that time, we had a lot of conviction in our idea of building out this AI tutor, and we knew that we like gained a lot of skills to build it out as well. Like, um, you know, Somi Internet Grok, which is one of our co-founders, and we all had different jobs that allowed us to like understand like what it is like to actually work in the startup. Um, and so we knew how to build, we knew how to we had some conviction on it. And when I came back, I had ideas on distribution and what we can do there. So building the product and building marketing or sales, with that combined, we just started growing. We I think another big point was when we like just like launched a Instagram post, talking about YouLearn, and that gained a lot of traction, tens of millions of views, and that allowed a lot of users to find out about us. But what we found really interesting is like by then we had a subscription model. By then we were like looking at all the data more correctly, and we saw like what works and what doesn't work, and then we can just keep on iterating on it because we have a lot of data and we know how to analyze it.
This time you were ready. The second time around,
Exactly.
because the first time you were not, and then you made bank, I'm guessing, on those viral moments where people actually find out about you. And of course, what almost everyone is going to be wondering about, because I hear this sort of I don't know if it's negative feedback, but this, or maybe this doubt, or like, oh, AI products with virality, people sign up, they try it for a month, and then they churn and they unsubscribe. And those companies have great revenues for a few months, and then poof, it disappears. It's not the case for you, if I'm correct. Well, I know the numbers, and I know the churn numbers are
Mhm.
very good. What do you attribute these to, except having a great product, which you have? Is it because students, need this for several months? What do you think makes this work much better than many of those AI hype products?
Yeah, I mean, first, like, I think one thing to know is like distribution isn't the end goal here. The goal is to make something users really love, and to do that, you have to keep on refining your product. Distribution is just one way to get a lot of customers and let them know. But once you want to retain them and have like a subscription retention rate that meets a certain KPI, then you need to look at your product a lot more. So to differentiate yourself, you have to always talk to users. You have to do a lot of surveys. You have to make sure that you're going through a lot of basically session replays of these users, what they're doing exactly, and then tracking the right data points, and then keep on iterating on it. Sometimes you can build features that are kind of pointless because you're listening to users too much, and they may just like be fixated on one part. But you have to extrapolate like what the customer means, like what does he mean overall, like what is the primary benefit that he's looking for. And if you keep on doing that and iterating, then I think you can build a great product, and that's what we're trying to do here.
It's super interesting what you're saying on listening to customers, but not listening to customers too literally. It's an eternal debate in the startup world that I've had on this podcast before as well, which is Henry Ford that said, customers can have any color car they want as long as it's a black car. And so, if and I don't know if it's Henry Ford or someone else in the automobile who said, if I ask customers, they just wanted faster horses.
Hmm.
And that's so many people would argue you should never listen to customers. Steve Jobs, never like had his own ideas and brought them to life. What you're saying is so fascinating, and you're, I think, one of the first that I hear this point of view. It's just one grain finer, refined point, which is listen to the customer, don't take it too literally, but understand the meaning. And how did you say it? The
Yeah,
goal that they want to achieve, like the final goal. That's how you said
exactly.
it. Yeah,
Like understand what the user is asking for, what is their primary benefit, and then
benefit.
from there, yeah, exactly. And then from there you try to say, okay, what kind of feature idea or a product idea do we have that can give that end goal, that primary benefit, the best way
It's very
possible.
cool. It's very, very
Yeah.
cool. It's
So
one of the.
yeah.
I've been very impressed with you guys at YouLearn, as you know, and that's one of the reasons. It's because the way you do product development, the way you're building, and you've been repeated already several times that the end goal is just to make a product that users really use. It sounds so obvious, but that's not how every startup approaches it. So I've always found this pretty fascinating. I want to take this into a slightly different direction, still on sort of following along your timeline and your journey. Now you're taking this more seriously, you're full time. It works well, and then you make it into YC. So I want to talk a little bit about YC, especially because, again, you're not the most common case of YC startups, which many YC founders just come in with an idea and that's it. You coming in with a lot of users, a product. How did you feel? How did that make your YC experience different? Let's start there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because, you know, if you look on Twitter, a lot of times people think about YC as like a status game. For us, when we got into YC, we had an idea, like we knew what we needed to do, which is we needed the right advice, we needed a great network of founders, and we needed to just keep on building. And that's literally what we did. Like right when we got into YC, we made sure to ask like a lot of good, great questions to our YC partners, and like when we met a lot of founders there, we try to get a lot of insights and also help them as well. And that just allows you to build this community out of it. I think there is a misconception around the Twitter space around like the value of YC. I think if you want to find value out of it, you have to be really resourceful. um, and that's like YC gives you all the resources you need. You just need to find the right parts of it, and you need to get it out of it as much as you can in a good way, right? And that's essentially how we made sure like we fully, uh, take advantage of the opportunity that we're given, and at the same time keep on building what we need, what we think we have high conviction of. So a lot of times people have ideas uh, of a startup idea and then they get into YC. That's awesome. I think there's great cases of like Scale AI not even having an idea and they transitioned after like a couple of weeks, and that's great. And I think it's also great to have um, some kind of conviction in yourself while you're building, and like that you can build something great. Like before we got into YC, we made sure like we know that we can keep on iterating on this, and we're not going into YC for some exterior motive. It's interior for us.
That's awesome. I agree with you that there is a lot of misconception around YC. You see it on Twitter, probably in the founder world, I'm guessing, I'm not sure, but I also see it on the investor world, where I actually know a lot of investors who literally say, I am not investing in YC at all. They're avoiding YC. And it's always for some weird reasons like, oh, the valuations are too high, which valuations are higher than other places, but you also get a selection and better results. So that just makes perfect sense. Or I know an investor who tells me, oh, the safe doesn't protect you if the company pays dividend. And you're like, that's the most absurd reason not to invest in YC. So YC gets a bad rep. I guess that's the ransom of success. I mean, they also get so many people talking about them all the time. But I
Yeah.
agree with you. There are many misconceptions around YC, including for founders. And met, I meet, sorry, founders all the time who tell me, should I do YC? I think it's too late for me. And I almost always tell them, it's probably not too late. You can probably go through YC later than you think. And I know companies who have $1 million of AR who go through YC regardless. And yes, you have to give away 7%, but it's probably worth it on the network you're building, the experience you're getting, the fundraise and the valuation you're going to get in the end, etc. Anyway, I don't need to
Yeah.
convince you. Obviously, you went
No,
through IC.
exactly. You have to get into YC for the right reasons, not the wrong. And I think that's, yeah, pretty much it for it.
That's interesting. Would you mind expanding on that? You talked about your own case, but for founders out there, and again, there are many who are considering YC and who are, let's specifically talk about founders who are already making revenue. They're not at the idea stage. What would you
Mhm.
say would be the right and the wrong reasons for them to go to YC?
If you're doing it for status and to like show that, oh, I got into YC, then it's the wrong reason. It's like saying, it's like trying to uh, keep on getting a lot of funding and for the wrong reasons as well, right? If you want to just raise a lot of money so that you can tell your other friends that you raise X amount, then that's definitely a wrong reason. If you're doing it for a reason where you're like, okay, I have some conviction on this idea. I also think we have a pretty good team, and I think YC will give us a great network of founders, or we'll get really good advice. Then those are the right kinds of reasons. I mean, for us, like we found it really beneficial when we talk to our YC partners. Sometimes I hear YC founders like, um, their experience could have been better if they asked the right questions to the YC partners. Like for us, we make sure to like dive between different questions that we're thinking of. So like if we have a question that is like has high stakes on the line, like fundraising, vision, and hiring, then we make sure to always ask that. If it's something that's kind of obvious and like kind of minor, and we can answer it ourselves, then we don't ask it. But if it's something that's like still on the edge and it's kind of arbitrary in our mind, then we always make sure to like hone in on which part of that arbitrariness, that topic that we're
Hmm.
confused about, is the most confusing part, and ask those parts. And then also have it like uh, or like have multiple questions depending on like what the answer could be from the YC partner. And from that, we got a lot of advice and we could learn a lot faster.
That's so interesting. You know what? I've spoken with probably thousands of YC founders now, and I've never heard that. It's so
Mm.
fascinating because you get limited time with your partner. They're probably one of your best resource during YC. They've been in your shoes, and almost all of them built huge companies. And so actually, crafting your questions very like thoroughly, that's a great hack. So to all other YC founders, if you actually make it to YC, this is how you should do it. I want to ask you a follow-up question on your YC experience. How is your YC experience already having, users and revenue? Do you feel left behind because everyone's in the idea maze? And for idea maze is something YC refers to when you're not yet at product market fit. You're trying to find the right idea, talking to users, building. Is it? I know it's still relevant for you and you had a great experience, but how can it be when you're the exception amongst beginners that are much earlier than you?
Yeah, you have to, you have to like kind of pattern recognize which parts is relevant to you. Like let's say the topic for the group office hour is about like how to come up with a how to create an idea that is actually solves a problem. It may be less relevant for us because we already have a problem that we're trying to fix on. But at the same time, there's always a smaller set of problems once you figure out the big set of problems. So, like for us, we know students want an AI tutor because they want to study smarter and faster. From there, there's a lot of smaller questions to it that you can answer by asking these founders or getting like understanding the advice that the YC partners are giving other founders and like trying to take it in your own way and like string out pieces that matter to you the most. I think another thing to acknowledge here is that since we're like pre PMF, it's not like the advice is completely different because if it was post PMF, then like we would definitely be at a different stage and we'd definitely be wanting to be getting those kind of advice. But since we're pre PMF, like the ideas can be like extrapolated out in a way that also you can take advantage of and take advice for.
Why do you consider yourself pre-PMF if you have, paying users and growing?
I think for us, we want to hit like certain KPIs that lets us know it's like uh, doing super well. So growth goals as well as retention goals and other goals as well. Yeah.
So you're just changing your own definition of PMF to something that okay, but just I mean, on the generally admitted definition of PMF, you're already there. Anyway, I understand.
Yeah. I mean, I think the question comes down to does it feel like you're rolling a boulder down a hill and it's super easy, right? I still think we are figuring out what users want exactly, and we want to see a lot more growth than what it is currently. So yeah.
Ambition. I like that as well. Okay, let's go into a little bit more on the product itself. Let's talk about PDF because I'm guessing it's a lot of what you do with videos and recording. How do you uh, how do you balance speed with versus hallucinations, and how do you make sure there's no hallucination in the content so that the student doesn't comes back and fail his or her exam because they learned the wrong thing that the model hallucinated?
Yeah, I mean, you have to do things on your side on the back end so that it's like super accurate and it extracts the right materials. If they give you like a 500-page textbook, then you have to make sure you don't give some random general answer like ChatGPT usually can do. You have to take it from the course materials that they give and like give exactly that back.
Okay, wow,
Yeah.
doesn't sound easy. And um, on the product as well, let's talk about retention. What so I want to ask you what keeps the students coming back, and of course, writing the question, I thought to myself, well, there's a new course happening every day at school, so they just need the product again and again. But I guess it's very easy to record and play with it for 5 minutes, but then get this, actually not come back when you need to prepare for the test. Like, what are the killers retention features?
Yeah. I mean, There's a lot of things that students can find valuable. Like if it's a student from learning about social science, then they can find it really valuable to talk and chat with the AI tutor, and go through like quizzes, right? If it's like a pre-med student, then they would love to do like the flashcard sets, and they love to keep on using that. If it's like a student that is learning about math, then they need a lot of like more calculations and step by step breakdowns. So it's really dependent on the subject that they're given for their courses, and making sure we deliver the right materials for that kind of use case.
That's interesting. Um, okay, I want to move on into market, and I want to ask you about AI in education. How do you see AI? Obviously, you're one of the actors of this change, but AI is evolving very rapidly. So, how do you see AI impacting education in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different directions. I mean, TLDR, like we just need to do a lot of experiments and then figure out what works. Um, projecting out 5 years, a lot of students can find value just talking with an AI tutor rather than like reading their course subject. And that's what we're basically providing, right? So all of their learning materials can be uploaded to our site, and then you can learn it from there. And therefore, a lot of the guidance that they get is from those kind of materials that we give instead of the teacher or the professor. I think that will become more prevalent, but it's really hard to change like the structure of an institution because there's a lot of bureaucracy and uh, like a lot of middle management in between those. So it'll be hard to change the system, but it is easier to change how what the student uses to learn uh, the course. Yeah.
Do you think, schools disappear with AI tutors in 5 years or in 10 years?
I mean, in 5 years, that's hard to see. In 10 years, I think there will be still schools, but the schools won't be ran by teachers. It'll be ran by AI tutors. And then the teachers could be more like guides, like kind of like daycare guides, making sure you're on track.
Do you know there's this famous school? It's originally French. It's called 42.
Mhm.
And it was started by Xavier Niel, French billionaire. He's also the guy who started Station F, the biggest startup incubator in the world in Paris. And 42 is a school where there is no teachers. It's a bunch of rooms with big iMacs, and you just show up. Like there's no, I don't think there's any days to show up. It's 24/7, 7 days a week, and you just have a curriculum, and you have until the end of the year, and you just show up, log into the Mac, and it's only projects that you have to complete. But there's cameras, so I think they're checking social interaction as well. Like if you're just a solo player, you're going to end up being kicked out. You need to
Mm.
interact with other students to help each other resolve it. So, but anyway, it's been around for, I don't know, not 10 years, but 5 at least. No teachers, but there's no AI either. So the future is maybe a mix of all of that with AI teacher.
Yeah.
Still on, oh, sorry, go ahead. Did you know about that school?
I do know schools like that.
It's awesome. It's
There's a
not the
lot of
only one then.
instances.
There's some in the US.
Yes, yeah. There's one like 2 hour learning, which means the student only studies for 2 hours, and then the rest is just like more hands on with the other students, and like they kind of do different activities.
And there's a 42 school from that same in California
Yeah.
somewhere. So they opened one as well. Very cool. Yeah, still on sort of the AI and impact on education. What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about AI in learning today?
I think a lot of times people think that students are using these AI tools for cheating. But if you look at the data and you look at what they're actually doing, like they can be cheating, but most of the time they're using it for understanding things fast. And the person that allows you to like learn super fast and super smart, super fast on something without having to cheat, um, those will be great tools. Like you can always cheat on anything using any like AI study tools, but but all the incentives, if it's focused towards learning, then the student will be more likely to learn instead of cheat. And making sure you create the right features for that is really important. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a misconception and like people want to just cheat.
It's interesting because iPhone was released 18 years ago, just when I was a student. I was a student studying computer science in an engineering school, and it was the first time you could load PDFs onto a phone and have them in your pocket. And so some students would cheat by just loading the course material on their iPhone. And I'm
Mm.
guessing today it's probably much easier to cheat with AI. You could just take a picture and it gives you the answer. But anyway, I don't think AI changes cheating, because I remember very well, even with iPhones, everyone had an iPhone, or not everyone, but most students. You could theoretically cheat and load the course, but most students, including myself, I was not a very good student, but at least I didn't cheat. Most students didn't do that. So it's the problem. I'm guessing it's the same today. The tools make it possible, but I'm guessing most students choose not to. And also, you can just get caught, and that's maybe that's just by the fear of being caught. But anyway, most students
Yeah,
choose not to cheat.
yeah, and I think by the same analogy, what's interesting is like um, people kind of talking about AI as if it's like a new calculator. Like when calculators came out, it was a form of cheating, but then at some point it got integrated into school systems, and now everybody's using calculators to solve more complex problems. But the one thing people are still wondering, and I am myself, is like it's not like AI isn't exactly like a calculator because it's
Mm,
like a calculator that's like always becoming smarter. So
yeah,
you always every month you get a calculator that is like much bigger, much more robust. And how do you manage that kind of world where it's like everything is becoming so much smarter, where the student now needs to learn things in a different way instead of like solving more complex problems. Now you should think about it in a way where students need to think critically in some way,
yeah.
and always trying to. I mean, essentially, that's what school does. Like it makes you think critically and more critically over time throughout each grade. And how can you achieve that without making the student feel like they need to cheat or the resources that they're learning is useless because now AI can do it. Yeah.
It's a big question mark. I would love the audience's opinion in the comments. Also, if someone wants to come on this pod and have an entire podcast specifically on this, I would be happy to, because the example I always go back to is printing. Before printing was invented, people would know the Bible by heart. They could just tell you the Bible like it's like the biggest book in the world, but they just knew everything. And then printing was invented, and people started forgetting the Bible. And everyone at the time said, "Oh, people are becoming very stupid. They don't even know the Bible anymore." And turns out all this mental space that was used to remember the Bible was freed up, and you could actually think about other stuff. And some people think it's one of the reasons where we had the Renaissance and we had innovation, technological innovation, starting right around after. Well, of course, printing made it easier to spread ideas and mathematical discoveries and physical discoveries, etc. But also the brain was free, and so now we have phones for 20 or 30 years, and so we don't remember our meetings. We have a digital agenda that remembers the meetings for us. It doesn't mean we're stupid. It means with AI, one part of me thinks it's the same, and just like you, one part of me thinks that I'm not sure, because AI is sort of a different thing entirely. And that's also the question I was asking you earlier: is school still even exist in 10 years? Like, why would you even need to learn to think critically if AI can do almost all of the thinking for you? So it's sort of the ultimate invention, better than printing, better than smartphones. What does the world look like with this, 10 years into the future, with models GPT 8, 9, 10, 12 that are infinitely better than us at almost everything? That's a real question and I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
But at the same time, there are like fundamentals you need to communicate with the world. Like you need to know how to, speak English, or you need to know simple math when you're buying apples at a grocery store, right? So like there's like certain fundamentals students will always need to learn,
That's true.
and yeah, I
Well,
think that
you
that
learn
will.
to speak English not at school. You learn to speak English at home.
That's true. That's
And
true.
if you're, Vietnamese and you speak Vietnamese and not English, AI can translate everything for you in real time with the glasses and stuff. So like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I don't know. Anyway, fascinating topic. I wish we had more time, but I want to let you go to run your business on time. Um, just what I had one more question. Maybe it is repetitive, but given what we maybe it isn't. Given what we just all talked about, what do you think learning looks like in 5 years? You told me you're just chatting with a tutor, with an AI tutor, but anything else? What do you think learning is in 2030?
Yeah. I think learning will feel like there's a teacher in front of you, as if there's like some human element to it because we're humans at the end of the day. And there's like a teacher in front of you. It gives you a whole entire guidance. It can walk you through everything. Um, we have a lot of ideas on that, and we wouldn't. Um, uh, we'd want to make sure we execute on it. So, but to give a general idea, that's what we think. It'll,
Awesome.
it'll feel more real and like as if you can get through everything in learning and like one sitting, like very quickly. So yeah.
If you could learn, physics by having a conversation with Newton, and with art, and mathematics by chatting with, Blaise Pascal or whoever, maybe 5 years, maybe, I'm not sure, with glasses that you actually see that person in front of you, and just having an actual conversation, and then learning, physics by just chatting with Elon Musk, who's telling you about rockets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have another crazy like fantasy or thought I have is like you have a Neuralink and then you just download all that information in your head as well. So
that's the Matrix. It's like, I want to learn karate, and then he downloads karate and he says, I or kung fu, and then he says, I know kung fu.
yes. Yeah.
It's possible. I've learned that you could also at some point learn a new language by swallowing a pill. I know some
Mm.
people are working on that, and it rewires. I don't know, man. This crazy world. That's way outside of our scope. We're getting, focusing on building startups that solve problems for students. That's a good place to be. So
Yeah.
before we wrap up, what's exciting before the download Neuralink? Probably you have other stuff coming before. What's exciting with YouLearn? What's coming in the near future, and what are you excited about?
Yeah, we're gonna allow students to study much faster and smarter, and we're building the right features for that right now, and we think students will love it. So if you're a student, I'd love for you to try it out. Give us feedback because we're constantly iterating on it as well. So yeah,
So where can they go and try? What's the URL?
yeah, go to youlearn.ai, youlearn.ai. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Brilliant. And where can listeners follow you if they want to, or reach you if they want to talk to you after this podcast?
yeah. I think the best way is just on LinkedIn or email me. So email me at david@youlearn.ai, or just find me on LinkedIn by searching David YU, LinkedIn. Uh, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I had an amazing conversation, and I hope you'll come back to introduce your next generation Neuralink learning tool.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Gabriel, for having me.
Brilliant. To our listeners, if you're still here, please give us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast platform or a subscription on YouTube. You can also check out my other YouTube channel where I do solo videos around VC and startup. Just type my name in YouTube, Gabriel Jarrison. Thank you so much for listening to the Lobster Talks. See you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.